Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, chapter 168. When we last left our heroes, the battle on Nero 1 ended with an Imperial defeat, and in the chaos, Elsie walked in to what was once Nero's throne room to have a conversation with Ziggy. They both sort of kind of taunt each other, but in the end, Elsie decides to spare Ziggy as Ziggy had once saved her life, and she turns to leave. Ziggy says that's why humans are so weak. Ziggy also drops some very weird phrases about the circle of fate not being broken, and we're now in World 31, which is all important things to keep in mind. Meanwhile, back at the Eden Zero, everyone is mourning Witch in their own ways. We see the ex-Draken gang, sort of, who are less attached to Witch, but are still sort of dealing with that fallout. And we see the follow-up of Wise's threat to Laguna back at the beginning of the war, that if anyone dies, he will kill Laguna, and he takes it back. He says, no, you've also had your own share of losses, I'm not adding to that today. So Laguna lives. We briefly check in with the Starshines. I kind of feel like we should have spent a little more time with them. But the bulk of the end of the chapter deals with Shiki and Rebecca, as Shiki is just a wreck. He sort of berates himself for what he said to Homura way back when Valkyrie was found dead. Rebecca comforts him and reveals that she has been trying to go back in time all through the last 2 days, revealing her entire left side of her body is like shattered and glass, or like cracked. And with that, Shiki decides he can't keep letting Rebecca go through that, and he decides to accept Witch's death for everyone. And that's where we left off. So let's dive right on into chapter 168, The Sea of Stars. And our picture here is just, it's a full page cover. It's really nice. Just the Eden Zero amidst the Aoi Sea. It's just a good look. It's just a good cover. We open with the Interstellar Union Army's prayer council, with the 5 surviving Horatio Says Interstellar. We open with Holy. Then Jaguar is dead, and poor little Creed from Justice's team. And Justice sort of... This is actually the first we're hearing of Justice being aware of Creed's death. But he sort of takes that in and then tells Holy, they're not the only ones. The number of lives we lost in that battle exceeds 1,000. And then Cure answers, but you defeated the Empire. You defeated Nero. Let us offer a prayer for our allies who have joined the stars. And then we cut to Feather. There are 4 left in the Horatio Says Galactica. And Holy picks that up. This is a change. To think, Feather's talking and Eraser's keeping quiet. Oh, okay, so I thought she was saying this is a chance. There's some kind of chance to end the Galactica once and for all. But no, she's just sort of being quippy. Holy is. I guess Feather is normally silent. We never really spent a lot of time with her at all to really work that out one way or the other. Anyway, Eraser sort of is uncomfortable with this sudden attention. I just got back from that battle. All those lives wiped out. Cut me some slack. And Holy, presses. Don't you mean they were erased? That's just sort of rude to, as he's dealing with the loss of life he witnessed, to, stress his role in that. It's kind of mean-spirited on Holy's part. And then Feather chimes in. As for the Pirate Queen Elsie Crimson, at this point in time, she is not a significant threat. I'm glad someone is, not super, let's go after Elsie, because it's kind of unclear why the Union is so anti-Elsie. She's a pirate queen, but she's not, in terms of, what Draken was up to and what Nero was up to, Elsie's just sort of living her life. I don't know. I'm curious why exactly they're after her. Justice, though, who is, who very much has his reasons for being anti-Elsie, asks, what are you saying? And Eraser chimes in, we're saying, like we've said a million times, she just happens to be really powerful. She's caused almost no damage to our citizens. Okay, there's an interesting thing. Because the implication I get is that maybe Justice, petitioned to have Elsie included in the Galactica. We know Jaguar was an ex-Galactica, so maybe when he left, they needed a 6th person to consider calling them the Horatio Says. And so Justice was like, here's this powerful pirate queen who I have a very big grudge against. And the others were like, all right, sure, we'll count her as one of the Erasion Seis. But, she's not really a threat. As Eraser points out, she's not really doing anything bad on the same level that Draken and Nero were. Anyway, Eraser continues, the other three are a bigger problem. Dead End Crow, the Titan of Eternal Darkness. And we see that's followed up by Holy. So I mentioned a while back my theory that each of the Erasion Seis Interstellar have a Galactica counterpart. Like we've seen Justice and Elsie, of course. Jaguars, didn't Jaguar have some kind of history with Nero that we briefly saw? So like maybe that was a pair, though they were both dead and we can't really see that anymore. Maybe we have Holy and Dead End Crow. I'm not sure what name I should call him by. Anyway, so yeah, we see Dead End Crow, the Titan of Eternal Darkness, we see Holy. Archbishop Saint Fire Nox, and God Aknoella, the Mother of Dragons, which feels like an Agnologia reference, but it's nice to see the other three members of the Erasion Seis Galactica. There's not a whole lot to say about them just from this little introduction, beyond Holy, I think, has some kind of history with Dead End Crow, just given her sudden placement there. Then Archbishop Saint Fire Nox, we haven't really seen much of a religious element here, beyond the Interstellar holding prayer councils. So maybe there's some connection with Saint Fire Nox and the Interstellar, maybe. Anyway, they say there's 4 left with these 3 and Elsie. I do like to remind people, I do believe DJ Zombie might still be on Norma in the past. He might be able to break out and become another member of the Galactica. That's been my pet theory for like a while now, and I don't know. I still think it could happen. Anyway, another member of the Interstellar that doesn't look like Cure. That might be Feather, actually. I don't know. Oh no, I think it is Cure. There's the same sort of thing down his nose. So Cure tells them, our fight will not end until we have eliminated all 6 of them. Now let us pray. May our sacred powers bring peace to the universe. But going back to the Elsie question, everyone except Justice sort of acknowledges that Elsie isn't really a threat. There's no need to get rid of her. But Cure is saying we have to get rid of all of them, including Elsie, who's just sort of minding her own business. I don't know. There's definitely something to think about in terms of the 2 Erasion Seises. I don't know. We cut to Justice, who is, after the meeting, going back to his own chambers, and talking with Victory, and asks Justice, you didn't bring up Ziggy at your meeting? And Justice presses, you were listening? That's against regulations. But Victory tells him it was definitely Nero's dice that killed Captain Jaguar. But it wasn't the captain that gave Nero his wounds. Justice agrees. I know. Ziggy had to have been there. The only way possible to beat Captain Jaguar is if they fought him together. I mean, you could technically describe it as that, but they kind of whooped his ass. Anyway, Victory pulls down his bottle of milk, and I want to talk about Creed. And Justice sort of flashes back to the battle as Jesse arrives, and Justice asks, what? Creed is dead? It was the Eden Zero. They shot him. Oh boy, that's not going to end well. At some point, Justice is going to learn the truth. And I can't see that going well for Jesse. Anyway, one of Justice's crew members calls out, Justice, sir, a transport pod is approaching with a signal from the Eden Zero. And Justice is shocked. What? They're saying, we are returning your friend's body. Okay. And that shocks the crew. I'm curious how they're going to take this. Are they going to see it they might see that as proof they really did kill Creed, or they might take that as he died and we have him even though it wasn't us. Anyway, Victory reacts. Then Creed really is dead, and Jesse is sort of panicking. probably that body might have some kind of proof that he was the one who shot Creed. And Justice reacts, "What are you plotting, Eden Zero?" And Jesse runs off. It might be a trap. I'll go check. And Victory calls, "Jesse!" And Jesse's there with the pod. And we see a message that the Eden Zero crew is given to Justice. "Below you will find the history of events leading to your friend's death." That's such a callous way of talking about Creed's death. Below you will find the history of events. That's so weird. I don't know. But Jesse is like sweating bullets. He's not happy to see this. Those little delete, and he deletes it. And we've cut back to the present as Victory asks, "Why would they return the body?" And Justice explains they want to make an example of him. But that doesn't make sense. You make an example when you want to keep people always in a state of fear. And then it's better to kill them violently. But Creed died from a single gunshot in the middle of a war. And Justice presses, "What are you trying to say?" "I'm saying I'm not sure they really killed him." Okay, so Victory is aware that something's not right. But Justice I think is more than a little biased, as he knows the EZ are allies of Elsie, and his Elsie bias, I think, is kind of pushing in here. Jesse says they did. He was in some serious shock. He might not be remembering things exactly right. Oh, he is Victory. He's just not telling you the truth. Justice tells him that doesn't matter. What? And we see Justice is like trembling now. It doesn't change the fact that he's dead. Well, that's true. He ventured into the cosmos to find a way to change his homeland's isolationist government. He was a kind man who fought alongside us to change the world. That was his creed. And we see Justice is now like weeping. He was so young. He had his whole life ahead of him. But now his future has been taken away from him. And I swear I will render justice on whoever it was that killed him. And we see Justice is just in tears. Victory looks at him kind of quizzically. And Jesse walks in. We see he sees that sort of anger and justice. He's terrified. But he walks in and says, "It was Homura." Oh boy. From the Eden Zero crew, Homura Kogetsu. She's in league with Elsie and the daughter of the infamous Madame Kurenai. She seduced Creed and then killed him. Oh boy, he's just flat out lying now. But Justice takes that at face value. You know, just being in league with Elsie makes Justice hate someone. And Jesse's just giving him all the motivation he needs to kill Homura. As Victory looks at him, I'm not sure Victory believes him. I think I'm not quite saying Victory will end up suspecting Jesse. But I'm also saying that's very much a possibility of how this sort of storyline can go. Just my thoughts for now. Anyway, the scene ends with Justice just sort of trembling, "Homura Kogetsu." And then we cut to Sandra. I guess everyone's gone back to Oasis's home base, and we specifically cut to Homura. Just sitting outside, minding her own business, with the crew on a hillside. As Homura tells them, "I do hope that Lord Seiji made it back to his ship." Pino tells her Miss Hermit made the automatic transport pod herself. The odds of him successfully reaching his destination are 99.7%. And Shiki asks her, "But why did we send him back to the Union Army, not Oedo?" And Homura tells him, "Witch said, everyone on a ship is family. So I thought we had best return Lord Seiji to his family." And Shiki sort of sits with that as Goodwin appears behind them all. "Family, eh? Rebecca Weka isn't with you?" God, I fucking forgot about us being an Ao Neko fan thing. Just that giant fucking cat man saying Rebecca Weka is just too good. And Shiki notes, "Hey, giant cat dude." Pino corrects him. This individual's name is Goodwin. And Homura tells Goodwin she is not in the best of health. She is resting on the ship. And we see, even after some time, at least her face is still cracked. I think it's less cracked than it was last chapter. I'm going to check really fast. Yeah, the cracks don't seem to be extending to her forehead in quite the same ferocity as they were earlier. They seem to have faded a good deal by now, but she is still cracked. And Goodwin notes, "Well, now I'm worried." Shiki just sort of apologetically, it was my fault. No, it wasn't. And Clean tells Goodwin, sister is with her. And Jean says, her cat too. And Goodwin sits down with them. You folks lost a friend too? And everyone's sort of silent, not really able to sort of address Witch's death so casually yet. And Goodwin continues, we lost a lot of friends too. Today, we're having a send-off for everyone who joined the Stars. And everyone sort of looks up in various states of, like, appreciation for that concept. And I want to point out what we saw during the prayer council, right? What we saw was, let me see if I can find the actual line. Someone said somewhere, join the Stars in the prayer council. I'm trying to see if I can... Here it is. Accidentally. There we go. On page 3, Cure says, let us offer a prayer for our allies who have joined the Stars. Which, dealings of what happens after death are religion questions. And this is the same chapter that first tells us about an archbishop future villain. So just things to keep in mind. This feels like very much like a simultaneous, denouement and rising action chapter. And I think all these religious references might be the rising action for whatever happens next. Anyway, back to where we were. So everyone sort of acknowledges that. And Goodwin goes on, here in Aoi Cosmos, when someone dies, we say they went home to We say they went home to the Sea of Stars. Of course, that goes for bots with hearts, too. So we light a fire in these lamps to represent their life. And we send them to the Sea of Stars with our love. So, is this tied with the Archbishop, or am I just... Okay, actually, here's the actual thing to bring up. Does this mean Cure is from Aoi? Because if this is explicitly an Aoi Cosmos tradition, and Cure uses that same phrase, that same joining the stars phrase, is that a sign that he is from Aoi? I'm not sure. I don't know. All again, things to think about. We send them to the stars with our love. And we see the lamps all floating up into space. Shiki holds one of his own and throws it up. As does Pino, as does Homura, as do all of them, just watching the stars go up. And everyone watches. We have this gorgeous 2-page spread of all the people of Sandra just watching those stars move. We see Homura and Pino with tears in their eyes. Jean and Clean watch on. And from the ship, we see Rebecca and Happy and Sister and Hermit also watching, not able to participate, but still there in spirit. We see Goodwin, we see Ibaraki and Russo and Gomakichi, I think was his name. Maybe, let me see if I'm right on that one. Gomakichi. And we see the little boy who is part of the Empire back in the Sandra arc as well, all watching. And Laguna lets his tears fall. And Wise watches with him. He notices Laguna's tears and turns back to the lamps. And Shiki notes, they go home to the Sea of Stars. Which regret? Eden's mother. And he has the image of Witch in the sky. We'll never forget you. You'll always be in our hearts. And that's where it ends. With just a funeral for everyone. And I think this is the end of the Neuro 66 arc. And it's just a great sort of wind down from what's been, easily the best arc in the series. Maybe my favorite Mashima arc of all time. Next time I rewatch Tartaros, I'll have to judge them. But it's been a great arc. It's been a great story, and I feel like this was really the arc where Mashima learned to balance the sort of darker and edgier vibes he wants to go with this series with not being pure, shock and exploitation. This really balanced it by, for one thing, focusing away from the sexual violence. There was a little bit of that with Ijuna's backstory, but mostly it wasn't there at all. And instead just having be more death-focused, and as a result, it treats that death and life with the solemnity that we didn't really get from things like Horny Aliga or any of the creepy sex shit Mashima would filter in the past. And I'm sure we'll get some of that later. Again, I don't think that's gone for good, though I can certainly hope. But I do appreciate just how this arc has treated death. It's the thing that happens in a war. This is, as far as like shonen arcs termed wars, this is definitely one of the best ones. I find war arcs to be not that great, but this one just hit all the time. Perfectly balancing, I think, the sort of Mashima's go-to style of, one-on-one fights with that sort of actual, wars going on in the background. I think it was just good shit all around, this arc. This arc was just really good. But let's talk about the chapter in particular. We see a bit more of the Irasienseis Interstellar, and there's not, beyond like seeing the members of the Galactica, there's not that much there. Beyond, actually, I want to linger a moment on this quick Justice Eraser interaction. After I think that's Feather is like, Elsie isn't that important. We don't have to focus on Elsie. She's just sort of minding her own business. She's not really a threat. And Justice gets mad. What are you saying? He glares, and Eraser picks up. We're saying, like we've said a million times, she just happens to be really powerful. She's caused almost no damage to our citizens. There's many things in there. There's this sort of, we're seeing kind of a rift between Justice and the rest of the Interstellar. And I'm curious, especially with Justice's next scene, how that's going to go. I don't know. Like, I could see him being so blinded by his revenge for Elsie and now for false revenge for Homura, him sort of splintering from the other Interstellar, and, they have some important mission against Dead End or Nox or Acnoella, which I'm definitely going to call Acnologia on multiple occasions, I'm going to say. And then he'll say, no, I'm going to go after Elsie or Homura or whoever he's currently feuding with in relation to Elsie. I could see some kind of conflict emanating from that. I don't know what that conflict would look like exactly, but there is definitely, we're seeing the seeds of a rift between Justice and the other Interstellar. And then, of course, we have that scene with the Justice crew as Jesse, in his panic, pins the blame on Homura, is unwilling to take responsibility for his actions. And, he's fully, I'm curious if let me find the way to phrase this, what his exact motivations are for framing Homura. Because, of course, he doesn't want to be blamed for Justice's death, and Homura was there. But does he also have this kind of burning hatred for the Eden Zero crew, thanks to their connections with Elsie, that, there's that extra bonus of going after Elsie affiliates? I mean, of course, Justice is more than happy to go after Elsie affiliates, but I'm curious if that's part of Jesse's thinking as well. I don't know. Lots of things to sort of keep in mind with that whole scene. It also was nice to see, we normally see a much harder side of Justice, as we almost only ever seen him either in the professional setting of the prayer council, or sort of on the hunt for bad guys and or our heroes in Elsie. It's nice to see him with his guard completely down. In that moment, he's not the, badass member of the Interstellar. He's a man who lost his subordinate, his friend, who is young and had his whole life ahead of him, and he's sort of dealing with that. I don't know, I really like seeing that side of Justice. It humanizes him a lot. Even if he's going to be even harder now, now that he thinks the Eden Zero crew is responsible for Creed's death. And then we come to Sandra, where the arc where Nero 66 started and now where it ends, coming full circle as, we have a quick conversation about Creed, which is a little convenient. It feels like, they're having the conversation because we just had the Creed scene, but it's still nice. And then it's time to talk about the funeral, the death traditions of the Aoi Cosmos. And it's just a nice scene. Everyone's sort of acknowledging their shared loss, sort of finding comfort in each other. And then we have that funeral, which is just the concept of finding comfort in shared loss brought to, an extreme. This is everyone's sort of, it's the concept of a funeral, of coming together to mourn. And that's what this scene is. It's just a great scene. I'm not sure it's my favorite scene in the series, but it's up there. It's just really well done. It's nice, it's slow, it's one of the many reasons I want the anime to get this far. Because I want to see this animated. I think it'll be fucking gorgeous if they do it right. And yeah, Shiki says one last goodbye to Witch, and that's where we leave off. Everyone, they've been scarred, they've lost things, lost people, lost body parts in Shiki's case as a result of this war, but they have to move on. They have one last goodbye for everyone who perished, and then you gotta pick yourself up. And yeah, that's this arc. That's this chapter. That's Eden Zero right now. It's good. It's great. It's incredible. I don't know what's happening next. I don't know, but the results of this arc, I think, have permanently changed the tone, the makeup, the existence of this series in ways that cannot just be undone. We might see Shiki trying to be his former goofy self, but I don't think it can possibly be the same as it was pre-war. And that's the kind of thing that just makes a great arc. The kind of arc where everyone is sort of has to change, has to learn to grow. And that's what this arc has been. That's what this chapter is the climax of. It's just a damn good time. If you're not reading Eden Zero, read Eden Zero. This shit is so good. But yeah, that's all I gotta say for this video. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!